Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to each one of you present here. It gives me immense pleasure to be on a platform like this where I get to address and talk to so many audience out there. And the topic for today is effective communication with your kids. Thank you all for being here to hear me out, and I truly appreciate your presence. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank FirstCry Intelli to offer me such a platform where I can express my views and thoughts about parenting. Thank you, FirstCry Intelli, for this opportunity. Very good afternoon, everybody present here. Today, by the end of the day, you will be able to know how the connections are formed in a child's brain, which are influenced by parents, and how the communication is going to help building a stronger relationship between a parent and a child. In what ways can you communicate positively with your children? Why should you avoid a negative communication, and what are the examples of negative communication? Okay. So we've all been tied up at our homes since good now 6 months, close to 6 months, and since we all belong to different states, we all have different norms and regulations to follow, and I'm sure pandemic has brought in a lot of new things, and it has made a lot of new norms in our life which were not which we were not used to. But I also believe that this has given us a blessing in disguise. We are getting more and more opportunities to spend our time with our kids, spend our time with our family members, which was initially not really possible during the weekdays. We were so tied up with our routines and work, things were getting more and more difficult to at least create a stronger and a healthier bond with our family members. And I see pandemic as an opportunity to create this and reiterate this bond with our children, and to have a healthier family ties in a long run. I'm sure most of you will acknowledge to what I am saying. So before I even start with the session, I want a commitment from all of you. I want you to help me in making this session as interactive as possible. And it is only possible when you really respond to what I'm asking you for. Okay, let's do complete justice for this, because since the topic is on communication, let's communicate as much as possible so that we have equal opportunity to share our thoughts and our views around parenting. Now, before I start off, I would like to speak a few lines about myself. Do I have the permission to do that? Can you please type permission granted in the comment box? PG, type in PG for me to know that I can introduce myself to you guys, because we're going to be there with each other for a few minutes. Not for a few minutes, for good, say about 60 minutes or so. So give me an opportunity to introduce myself. Permission, you can type in permission granted, PG, in the comment box. Thank you, Farhana, for that. Just waiting for more responses. Thank you. As I told you, please, let's have this as more as an interactive session than just a lecture session. I really don't want to have this as a one-way traffic. Thank you all. Okay, so I'm Dr. Anjum Sabha. I'm a parenting expert and an edupreneur. I'm basically a director of a preschool, which I started in the year 2011. And I'm also a founder of Blissful Parenting Hub, and I'm a mother to a 9-year-old boy. Being with parents and children for close to a decade has given me the leverage to resonate with parents' anxieties and apprehensions that revolve around parenting. Okay, and that's the very same reason why I'm on a mission to help parents achieve lasting relationships with their children by inculcating stress-free positive parenting skills. Okay, so now that I have spoken few lines about myself, thank you for that, and thank you for hearing out to me. Let's get started to the session, which is about effective communication, how you can create a stronger bond with your child by means of communication and help them grow into successful and self-disciplined, self-reliant. The adjectives will just go on and go on. I'm sure I'm going to add a lot of value to this session. And one request that I have is kindly keep your questions towards the end of the session. If not, your questions may get lost in the chat and I may not get an opportunity to really look back and answer those questions. So any questions, please kindly post them towards the end of the session. Okay, so imagine a world without communication. You have a brilliant idea, but you do not possess the power to communicate. You have a strong wish and you're not able to express your desires, communicate your desire. Life would be dull and bore and it would be so blank and world would be not worth living at all, isn't it? So such is the power of education, such is the authority of communication. Communication can be in various forms. It can be verbal, non-verbal, it can be written, it can be effective, ineffective, positive, negative, and it just goes on and on and on. Like how oxygen is required for life, it's the same way communication is required for a stable and a strong relationship. And parenting is no different. Communication has the power to either make a relationship or break a relationship. Do you all agree with me on that? If you agree, type agree on the comment box. Does parenting have a power to break does communication have a power to break or make a relationship? Type agree in the comment box if you agree to that. Okay. So once we set a right stage or foundation for communication with our kids, then there can be nothing more blissful than parenting. Believe me on this. Children love their parents, parents love their kids, and that's how it is in most of the situation. And love is a great foundation for communication. Whenever your child needs your support, no matter what, you make sure that you're there with them. And you always want your kids to feel comfortable to share their problems, their concerns. And however you want them to do that, your child's interest will keep changing as they grow up, and hence your communication also has to evolve as your child grows. So when your child becomes a teenager, you cannot have the same kind of conversation that which used to be fun in their formative years of development. So proper communication will help your child to grow into a happier and a successful individual and a responsible individual. So how do you help your child to become a more responsible, happy, or self-disciplined, or self-reliant, or motivated, or a successful individual? As I said earlier, the adjectives will just go on and on and on. So what becomes challenging is communicating with a teenager. How can you help your teenager to confide in you their feelings, their thoughts, their emotions? How can you help them communicate with you about their problems and their emotions? How will you do that? How is it possible to get that level of trust in your children where they, without any hassles or difficulties, they just come straight to you and express their thoughts and emotions? How will all this happen? This can happen when your child knows that they can trust you. When your child knows that they can trust you, how can you build that trust in your child? You can build this trust in your child by establishing a stronger connection with them. So Basically, communication forms the basis of all. Once you set right the communication with your child, you will be able to build stronger connections with your child. You will be able, through those stronger connections, your child is going to trust you more than anybody else around them. And directly, indirectly, they will confide in you in spite of you telling them or not telling them to express their thoughts and their feelings. And do you know at what stage of your child development do you need to lay this foundation? Any idea on that? Just type in your comments to let me know. Do you know at what stage do you need to lay the foundation of trust, or do you need to build a stronger connection with your child? Any idea? What stage of your child's development should this happen? Any idea on that? When your child is a toddler. Okay, yes, you got to really work hard while your child is a toddler to reap the benefits later. To have a teenager who is not rebellious, who is disciplined, who is responsible, and who can comfortably share his or her thoughts and emotions with you as parents. It's very, very important to set that foundation during those formative years of your child to have a stress-free parenting journey. Am I making sense to you guys? Are you able to connect with my thoughts? Am I able to connect? Are you able to resonate with my thoughts, with whatever I'm saying? If yes, please post your comments. I'll get to know that I'm in alignment with your thoughts. I'm able to resonate. I'm able to connect with you. So at this point, I want to get into a bit of neuroscience to help you understand how exactly your child's brain works. Okay, this is really important for parents so that you do not have some unrealistic expectations from your kids. It is very important for you to know how your child develops those connections in their brain which are influenced by you, which are going to play a big and a vital role as the child develops, as it forms their life. Okay, so I'm going to keep this as simple as possible without using much of technical terms, and I'll try and make sure that I can deliver the message across in a right way. So basically, do you know that your child's brain is about quarter of a size when they are born? Okay, quarter of a size of an adult's brain when they are born. And as the child grows, and in a span of 1 year, there is an incredible doubling of your child's brain. And by the time the child is about 3 years of age, your child's brain is about 80% of an average adult brain. Okay, so it grows to about 80% in volume to your average adult brain size. And by the age of 5, it is almost completed. With respect to volume, it is about 90%. When a child is born, there are about 100 million neurons with relatively less connections. Neurons are nothing but the brain cells. And for this brain cells, for the brain cells to act and to trigger a response, they need to have connections between them. So how are these connections formed? These connections are formed through the experiences that you offer to your child. Okay, so these connections, how are they important? They are important as they create thoughts, as they drive our actions, they shape our personalities. Basically, these are the connection that decides who you are as an individual. And these connections are strengthened, sculpted, or even are created through the experiences that the child gets around them in their world through their parents. So the amount of and quality of care and stimulation and interaction that they receive during these years, it what matters the most. The earlier years are the best opportunity for a child's brain to develop these connections, as these connections will also help them performing some high ability tasks like motivation or problem solving, critical thinking, and even communications. When these are formed at the formative years. So when parents are able to provide positive experiences to their children, the kids will be able to have a positively nurtured environment, and hence they develop into successful individuals. If the parents are providing them with negative experiences, then the child fails to have any kind of zeal and enthusiasm or skills which they will need to thrive in their life. So it is really, really important for parents to understand this, understand how important it is for them to provide positive experiences to their kids during this formative years. When you provide the positive experiences, they not only build good connection into your child's brain, but your child also carries an image of you throughout their life. So you got to be really a good role model in whatever you do, in whatever kind of experiences you provide to your child. Okay, so this is how the connections in the brain work. Now, how many of you feel that your words really matter to your child? Whatever you say, however, in what way you say, or in what way you are expressing your statements to them, how many of you think that the words really matter? Please post in your comments here. How many of you feel that words really matter? Can I get some responses? Please come on, let's have this as an interactive session. Okay. Yes, our words really do matter. Basically, as adults, we have the tendency to see our children as miniature adults. We believe that they should think, do, and behave like how we generally tend to do and behave. And when kids fail to deliver this expectation of parents, things go terribly wrong. Okay, and you may express this to your children in form of words or actions, and sometimes you also go to an extent of punishing your children, and this makes the situation more worse. Okay, and what could have worked out in a better way could drastically or dramatically go down, pulling down your kids' self-esteem. And how do you help, and how do you make sure that whatever you say has a good impact on your child? Basically, we as parents or even as individual, we never pay attention to a child's subconscious mind. Okay, but we are more worried about their nutrition or about their developmental goals. Neuroscience has shown that 90% of our brain activity is governed by our unconscious mind. What I mean to say is that 90% of our life has been shaped up by the programming that has already taken place in our subconscious mind, and only 10% we operate through our conscious mind, which is related to reasoning and decision making or logical thinking. So basically, the subconscious mind acts like a primitive area that makes you breathe. It manages your body, it manages your emotions, it stores your belief system and also your habits. So basically, from the age of 0 to 8 years or even to 10 years, subconscious mind is predominant in children. Okay, it is during these formative years where all the programming is naturally occurring in kids, because the critical mind has not been developed. So there is no filter. Whatever the child sees, hears, or feels, it accepts it like a fact. You are everything in your child's eyes. So whatever you say becomes a fact to your child, and it goes directly to your child's subconscious mind. So the programming that takes place during this formative years forms the belief system for your child. Now let me give you an example and make you understand how this actually works. Okay, how many of you have told your children, if you do not score well in your school, you will not be able to get a better job, or that they cannot be successful in life? Most of us, and probably innumerable times, we have communicated something like this to our kids. So what is happening here is your child is basically forming an unconscious belief system, thinking that he is not able to get a better job, or that he is not able to be successful in his life just because he didn't have good grades in his school. This is how powerful your words are going to be. This is how powerfully it impacts a child's subconscious mind. You got to be really watching your words and the statements that you make towards your child during these formative years. The subconscious mind does not differentiate between negative and positive. Parents need to be really watchful about the choice of words that you are going to talk to you, that you are going to use while you are conversing with your child. So either you can influence your child with a positive thought or with a negative thought. Whenever you're influencing your child with a positive thought, you are trying to build a positive belief system in your child and a stronger brain structure. So by building a positive belief system and a stronger brain structure, the probability is that you are going to have kids who are more independent and who are more successful in near future. Isn't that what we want as parents? Isn't that what we expect our kids to grow and be up to? Don't we want them to be responsible? Don't we want them to take care of themselves? Don't we want them to be self-reliant? Don't we want them to feel the self-worth for themselves? If we really want our kids to have these abilities, we need to nurture our children with those positive thoughts and with those positive statements, which is going to take the place in their subconscious mind. Okay, so I hope I am clear enough in whatever I'm trying to communicate with you. So this understanding of the subconscious mind and understanding of the connections that gets established in brain is really important, as parents need to be watchful of their surroundings, as parents need to be watchful of what they are trying to communicate to the kids. Now let me emphasize on how communication can help build a stronger connection with your child. Basically, as soon as a mother conceives, knowingly or unknowingly, okay, they start communicating with their child. You tend to form a new world around yourself with your thoughts, with your emotions, with your dreams, with your hopes. Everything starts revolving around your child. Isn't that true? Yes? Yes, everything starts revolving around your child. And as soon as that divine soul comes into the world, you again start the process of communicating in spite of you knowing that your child is not going to respond back to you verbally. You start talking to them, you start cooing them, you start doing all sorts of gestures towards your child. But initially, your child is the only way your child can communicate with you is through crying. And as the days or weeks pass by, your child will be able to develop gestures like smiling and also trying to have an eye contact with you. They also start responding to you through their body movements by moving their hands and legs when they are happy or while they are in distress. So basically these are the ways that a child tries to communicate. And as the children grow to the age of toddlers, they tend to express their needs and interest more directly. So a lot is happening behind this natural phenomenon of communication between the child and a parent. Right from the birth, children are serving invitations to engage with their parents. Okay, each of these little invitations are providing opportunities for parents to get involved and be responsible to their child needs. So, the process of an invitation from a child and a response from a parent becomes the fundamental wiring of the brain. Parents who give attention, respond, and interact with their kids are literally building up their child's brain. That's why it is so important to talk to your child, to sing to your child, or to read to your child, and even play with your child during this formative years, because you're actually providing opportunity for your child to experience a physical world around them and to provide them with a stable and a secure nurturing environments. Now, since the time of birth since the time of conceive, we start communicating with our child, and we know how it actually frames the brain of a child. Now let's see, how can you positively communicate with your child? What are the positive ways of communication that you can stimulate a stronger connection between you and a child? So to have an effective communication, you need to start at a very early age of your child. While they are very young, you should begin communicating. You should begin setting up an open and effective communication. And how can you do this? You can do this by being available to your child whenever they ask you a question or whenever they feel like talking to you. And furthermore, it is also important that as parents, you help your child to feel your love, feel accepted, and they should also feel that you understand them. It is really important. Once your child feels loved, once your child feels connected, once your child feels that you understand them, they will be more open with their communication. They will be more open to communicate with you about their thoughts and about their feelings. And this can happen both verbally and non-verbally. For example, you can always appreciate your child, say, oh, this is really nice that you have put back all your things without being told. This is going to be an appreciative way of responding to your child. You can also appreciate your child by in a non-verbal way, by smiling while they are talking to you, or by probably giving a pat on their back while they are talking to you. So these are the positive and effective ways of communicating with your child. And whatever a parent tells a child, it is sending a message to your child. So if you say, don't bother me, I am busy now, you're actually sending a message to your child where your child thinks that either they are not important to you, or that whatever they are trying to say doesn't matter to you and is not important, and you're not interested in your child. And I'm sure as parents, we do not want something like this to be built in their belief system. So we really got to be watchful of the words and the statements that we are going to make. You should always try to communicate at your child's level. Communicating at your child's level means you need to use a language which is age appropriate, use statements which is going to help your child understand in a better way, and also you have to go physically down to your child's level. For an example, say if you have to help your child understand something like, say if your child is hitting his or her sister, you can say no hitting your sister, rather than making it more complicated and saying hitting your sister is not acceptable. These are the long framed sentences which may not directly give the message that you're trying to deliver it to your child. So keep your statements short and crisp, and you should know how your child understands these statements. And also it is important that instead of towering over your child, leaning over your child, looking really big in front of your child, you got to go physically down by either kneeling down or by stooping down to your child's level, or by sitting to their level and communicating. While you're doing this, you're able to establish an eye contact. So while you're establishing an eye contact with your kids, they feel more secure and less intimidated with your presence. Your child is going to develop the trust while there is an eye contact established between the child and the parent. And it is also really important that you learn to listen to your child. Listening is a very important and a crucial skill to have an effective communication. between a child and a parent. The greatest problem with communication is that we don't listen. We'll only listen to reply. Well, while a child is trying to talk to us, we are always preparing responses behind our brain. We are already ready with the response without even understanding and listening to what exactly our child was trying to communicate to us. So listening is a very important skill to have an effective communication. And while you're trying to role model this to your child, you're also helping your child to listen to you while you are talking to them. Okay, so this is a really important skill. Now, let me give you examples which will help you develop listening skills. So you need, as quoted earlier, as I have stated earlier, we really need to make and maintain the eye contact. So with minimal eye contact, the child feels that you are not interested in what they are trying to communicate with you. And you should always eliminate your distractions. You have to make sure that whatever the child is trying to express, whenever a child is expressing a desire to talk, parents should give them that unavoided attention. Okay, so it is really important for you to do that. You should always put aside whatever you're doing, face their children and give them the undivided attention. If, for example, say if you're watching TV or reading a newspaper, children may get messages that you are not interested in whatever they are trying to tell. So it's important to put aside the newspaper. It is important to switch off the TV and help your child realize that you are all ears to hear them out, and your children are freely present to express their views and their thoughts. So undivided attention is very important to establish the listening skill. And you should always listen to them without any interruptions. Never interrupt your child while they are expressing their thoughts or while they are trying to communicate with you. You can always correct their grammatical mistakes later on whenever you find an opportunity, but not while they are interacting with you. While you're trying to interrupt your child, you're breaking the train of thoughts. And when this happens, the kids tend to feel really frustrated about this. Okay, so it is very important that you do not interrupt while your child is interacting with you, and your child should also feel that you have listened to them. Okay, that they were heard. Say, suppose, for an example, your child comes back home and he starts describing about his day at school. How you can respond back is you can exactly utter few words of your child and make your child feel that he was heard about it, and that you can even you can help them realize that yes, this is what my mama or papa has heard about me, and they are able to understand what I was trying to express. So this is another important quality to improvise your listening skills. Let me also emphasize about how requests and instructions can build an effective communication with your children. Okay, request is something where you are asking your child to do, and instruction is something where you are telling your child to do. Request, for an example, will you please be able to fold these clothes? And instruction is, I want you to please help me in folding clothes. So this is how you can place a request and you can place an instruction. I would always suggest that requests work a lot more better than instructions, because the child gets an opportunity to choose, and also they feel a kind of self-control, and you have a better opportunity for your child to acknowledge, or to acknowledge your requests, to approve your requests. They are going to be more cooperative while you are placing a request to your child. Now, in case if there are instances where you really want to instruct your child, I can give you some examples where you can positively create an atmosphere with instructions and where you can get your child to cooperate with you. Okay, so you should always ensure that your child's attention is at optimum while you are instructing your child. And you should always use simple and clear language while you are instructing your child. Say for an example, if you say something like, nobody is helping me out here to tie this up. Now your child does not get a clear cut message. Okay, so your child will not know if you're asking him or her to help you out, or if you are complaining that there is nobody to help you out there. So being clear about your instructions will exactly help your child deliver what you want them to deliver. Okay, and always be positive while giving an instruction to your child. This will also help them deliver what you want from them. For an example, if you have to say, if you say, don't eat like that, instead of that, replace it by saying, close your mouth and chew properly. This gives a clear understanding for your child what you are expecting out of them. So don't eat like that is replaced by saying, chew with your mouth closed. So here you're building a positive reinforcement to your child while you are communicating. Okay, and always make sure that you give one instruction at a time and do not overload your child with multiple instructions and where they find difficult to follow them. And you should also be prepared to repeat yourself. Kids need repetitions as often as possible because it takes time to register in their brains. So for example, if you have to say, if you want your child to hurry up with something and they are not able to do that, you can provide an incentive while doing this. Okay, so for example, for younger ones, it may be more easier and clearer to follow this up. If you want your child to put on his shoes, you can provide an incentive by saying, you will get more time to play in park if you put on your shoes right now. And for younger kids, you can keep it really short statements like saying, first shoes and then park. So when you are trying to establish these kind of statements, your kids will be able to readily understand it and deliver exactly what you expect out of them. And the other important way to have an effective communication is using I statements. I highly recommend parents to use door opener statements to establish communication with your skills. These door opener statements work magic while you are utilizing them in your day-to-day talk activities. Okay, these statements will help your child to talk more, to express more of their thoughts, more of their feelings. It shows them that you are very much interested in what your child is really wanting to share with you. And these door opener statements are like, wow, I see, amazing, how interesting, so these kind of door opener statements will help your child to talk more and to share a lot of more thoughts that is going on in your child's brain. So I highly recommend to use door opener statements to have an effective and impactful communication with your child. And I would also recommend to use more of do's than don'ts. This is really important. As parents, we know what is it that we don't want our child to do, and our statements are immediately our statements are immediately formed with don't do this, don't do that, don't go there, don't do this. So basically we are preoccupied with the word don't. Now let me see how much can this really affect you. Okay, now let me give you an example. Now I'm putting out a statement to you and you really need to tell me if this works out. Okay, I'm telling you, don't imagine a crow sitting on your head. This goes out for all of you listening to me. I'm asking you and I'm telling you, Don't imagine a crow sitting on your head. Are you able to resist the imagination? Comment and let me know. Are you able to resist the imagination? I'm sure you're getting a clear-cut picture of a crow sitting on your head. Isn't it? Let me know. Comment and let me know. Post your comments. Are you able to resist the statement when I say, don't imagine a crow sitting on your head? Waiting for your comments. Let me know. I'm sure that there is a picture of a crow sitting on your head. So when we as adults are not able to resist this thought, this process, how do you expect your kids to abide something like this? Basically, what happens with don't statements is they empower a behavior which you don't want them to do. They reinforce the same behavior which you are wanting your child not to do. That's the down part of the don't statements. So as much as possible, use don'ts use do's rather than don'ts. You can replace these statements in multiple ways. Instead of saying don't go outside, it can conveniently turn into stay inside, as it is cold, you won't be able to play. Okay, you can also replace something like don't hurt your brother. Instead of don't hurt your brother, be gentle with your brother. These rephrasing of statements and sentences is going to make a huge difference in your life, and it is definitely going to create a greater bond, and it is going to ease out a lot of difficulties while you're trying to communicate with your child. So instead of using don'ts, try and reinforce your statement with lot of do's. Try and imagine, say suppose you have friends coming in your home, and do you tell them, don't do this, don't do that? No, right? So in order to break that don't kind of a statement, start communicating with your kids like how you communicate with your friends. It will be easier for you to break that down, don't statement. It will be convenient for you to get used to the other form of using those statements. I highly recommend this because the brain will not process something which you start with a negative word. The kids will be more re-inclined to something what is told after a don't. It reinforces a behavior which you don't want them to do. So please be really watchful of this. And something which is really important and also amazing is using I statements to communicate. Okay, these I statements are basically helping your child to understand you better. Okay, so here you are trying to express your thoughts, your feelings, your behavior, your emotions. You're basically trying to help your child understand that if you have not liked something particular about their behavior, you are presenting a situation with your perspective rather than blaming your child for it. Okay, I will give you an example for you to exactly know how this works. Okay, so here if I have to say, your room looks messier, instead of pointing at your children always like you do this, you do that, you don't do this, you don't do that, convert it into yourself, convert it to as I statements. Okay, instead of saying your room looks messier, you can always put it up like, I want your room to be clean and neat, please put back the things in the right place. Is that going to make a difference? You think this kind of a statement is going to make a difference and it is going to help your child do things more obediently, rather than blaming them and shaming them for something which they are not really to be responsible for? So use of I statements is highly recommendable to have an effective communication skill. You can also say something like, if you are irritating me, if you are communicating something like this to your child, you are irritating me, it brings a lot of negative impact onto your child's brain. A child is going to feel very much downtrodden, and it will be very difficult for them to come back to themselves. So instead of saying or making statements like that, you can say, I don't feel like playing now because I am tired. You just need to rephrase and try to add positivity as much as possible into your statements to develop a healthier communication with your child. And always make sure that you use kind words to your child. Okay, instead of grumbling at them using your high tone, instead of screaming out yourself to them, please use kinder words, as your child is going to watch you and imitate exactly what you have been doing. We always have to be good role models to our kids. Our kids tend to imitate us in a big way. So whatever we do, as you all know, is getting loaded into their subconscious mind, and they don't know to differentiate. The subconscious mind does not allow them to differentiate between positive, negative, good or bad. It just goes there and takes the shape of their belief system. It forms their belief system. So it is really important to use kinder words like thank you, please, sorry, you did a great job, that really makes me feel good, you are so amazing. So always try to reinforce these kind words into your child's routine so that they develop a positive attitude towards communicating with you. This is really important. And you should also make sure that you show them that you accept your child. Acceptance is a very important criteria for a parent and child relationship. You have to show your child that you accept them no matter what. You accept them without any judgments, without any clauses. While you do this, you are trying to help your child by increasing their self-worth. The child is going to be feel more confident, and that is how they are going to present themselves in front of others as well. So always make sure that you accept your child, accept them in a healthier way, where they feel more confident, where they don't look down upon themselves. This is very important to establish a stronger bond between a parent and a child. And accepting your child does not mean accepting their behaviors which are not really a not to go about, but accepting them to build a communication which is going to lay the foundation for all the future relationships, the bonds, or the adjectives that you want to add to your child's name. Okay, so these are some of the effective ways to communicate with your child. Can I get some responses from you? Can I get some responses from you? Was I clear? Have you understood what are the effective ways to communicate with your child? Have you got it clear? Have I made myself clear about the effective ways of communication? Yes? Yeah. Yes. So as positive communication can have a greater impact, the negative communication also has a huge impact. So how can you avoid negative communication with your child? Unfortunately, many parents aren't aware about just how often they use negative forms of communication with their children. While communicating in a negative way, you are planting seeds of mistrust and low self-esteem in your children. This is why it is so important for parents to become aware and to correct any negative form of communication that they may be using for your child. I'm sure none of us as parents want our kids with lower self-esteem. I'm sure none of we as parents want our kids not to trust us. We definitely don't want these kind of qualities in our children. For that, you have to really make an effort to make sure that you are not hampering your child's brain development or hampering your child's subconscious with negative terms and negative statements. So some of the examples of negative statements are like, interrupting while your child is speaking, criticizing your child for their views, for their thoughts, for their feelings. It's a big no no. Never, never do this with your child. Acknowledge their feelings, acknowledge their desires, acknowledge their wants. Wherever you feel that it is something is not right, you can always guide them and correct them, but never criticize your child. And you should also stop dwelling on your child's past mistakes. Okay, once the problem is solved, parents should not pick up their child's previous mistakes. What happens is, while you're doing this, while you're going on picking up their previous mistake, you are teaching your child to hold grudges. Okay, so you are teaching your child to hold grudges, which I'm sure as parents, we don't want something like this to happen to our child. Say, suppose for an example, tomorrow you have made some mistake, something goes wrong, something terribly goes wrong from your end. Will you really appreciate if your child keeps picking on to that mistake of yours? No, right? It's the same with the kids. When we don't want something like this to happen to us, we cannot do something similar with our kids. They need that respect, they need that belonging, they need that full acceptance from you. Only then will they be able to establish themselves into a self-reliant, self-disciplined, responsible, trustworthy, successful individual in your future. Now, if you hamper with your negative thoughts and with your negative statements, it is very, very difficult to repair any of this later during their life. It gets very difficult. So never dwell on their past mistakes. And you should also understand to not to control them over a guilt. Okay, so you should never use guilt as an advantage to make your child do something. It is another very negatively impacted statement from your end. And you should also try and make sure that children don't feel guilty more often. Okay, you should try and communicate in a way that they start believing in themselves, that they start feeling confident about themselves. So the feeling of guilt has to be taken away from your child. And never use a sarcasm while you are communicating with your child. Whatever you have to communicate, be more responsible towards your statement and communicate in a way which is going to make your child do something that you really want to do, rather than using a sarcasm which your child is going to feel detached about. And never try to pull down your child's. Pulling down them can be like, name calling, ridiculing them, judging them, or even blaming your child. While you're trying to do this, while you're trying to pull down your child, you are causing a great damage to your child's self-esteem. Okay, children who are put down by their parents often feel rejected, unloved, and they also feel inadequate about themselves and about their surroundings. They will not be able to express themselves in full potential. So never try to pull down your children. And using threats is also a big no, because threats are very ineffective. They often make children feel powerless and resentful towards adults. So never use threat as a way to get things done from your children. So that's another negative statement. And also never deny your child's feelings. You should always acknowledge and empower, help your child to express their feelings, their emotions, labor their emotions, help them understand what anger is, help them understand what disappointed is, help them understand how to express their sadness. When you have when you are helping your child expressing their emotions, expressing in their feelings, you will not have kids who are throwing tantrums at you. You will not have kids who are being disobedient with you, because they will know how to express an emotion or a feeling. So never deny your child's feeling. Let me give you an example here. Say, suppose your child comes home with a sad face and tells you that he lost his match, he lost a game at school. Please do not respond by saying, "It's okay, don't feel bad." That's a very blunt statement from a parent. Never say, "It's okay, you don't have to feel bad." Acknowledge that your child is feeling bad about loss at game. You can always empower them by saying, "Yes, I understand how bad you're feeling, how difficult it was, how important it was for you to win this game. I totally understand." And you can always give your examples and make them feel that you can empathize with their feelings and emotions. You can probably go back to your school days, pick up an event, pick up an incident where you have lost a game, or where you have probably lost something to your friends. Okay, and relate that to your child. This will help your child understand that you completely empathize with their feelings and with their thoughts. Okay, and let me also put across a very important thing in front of you. While you are using negative words, or while you are screaming and shouting at your child, your brain, the child's brain, releases certain stress chemicals. Okay, these stress chemicals prepares your child's body for a fight or a flight response. It shuts down the prefrontal cortex area of the brain, which is responsible for reason, logical thinking, and also associated with compassion and empathy. So it deactivates the frontal cortex area of the brain, and it actually activates the limbic system, or you can also call it as a flight or a fight part of the brain, or you can also call it as a survival brain. Okay, so it empowers and prepares your child to fight, to flee from the situation, and it creates a very negative impact on your child while these hormones or while these chemicals are released into your child's brain. So it is very important for you to avoid screaming, shouting, and yelling at your kids. I'm sure you don't want your kid to come up with a flight or a fight response. I'm sure you don't want your child's brain to release those chemicals which actually deactivate an important part of the brain. So let's be more responsible, let's be more effective towards our communication skill. Let's be more positive in terms of delivering a lot of positiveness to our children, just to help them grow into greater, successful, disciplined, resilient, reliant, responsible individuals. So this is really important, that open and effective communication, it definitely takes a lot of hard work and practice. And parents, please do remember that you are not going to be perfect at it. None of us are perfect at anything. Parenting is never about perfection. What is important is that you need to put in efforts to establish effective communication skills. What you need to put efforts in is to establish positive experiences in your child's brain. What you need to put efforts is in providing a lot of love and care and nourish and nurturing your child's development. What you need to really work on is providing a healthier belief system in your child. This is what you really need to put in efforts for. Okay, it is not about you being perfect. It is not about that at all, because it is, parenting can never be perfection, and it is definitely going to take time. All these things are not going to happen in a short span of time or over a night time. Okay, parenting is not about a sprint, it is a marathon. Whatever you do today is going to reap benefits later in your child's future. Okay, I hope I have made things clear here, and I hope I have been able to express how communication really impacts your child's growth, your child's development, connection in your child's brain, how you as a parent can help your child in creating a stronger bond. Okay, before that, do you want me to, before I wind up my session, I want I want you to tell me if you need a pro tip from me, a very important tip. Do you need a pro tip from me? Type pro tip in the comment box. Just to help you understand how ineffectively can you create a bond. We are always inclined towards worldly things. We do not utilize things that are blessed to us, which are inexpensive, which are freely available. Do you need a pro tip to establish a stronger bond with your child? Type pro tip into the comment box. Yes. Yes, Maushmi. Some more responses, please. Yeah. So basically, we are always inclined towards the worldly things to create a stronger connection with our child. No, that's not how you can really establish it. I'll tell you something. You know, as much as you hug your child, you are going to have a stronger connection with your child. Hug your child as often as possible. While you hug your child, there is a hormone called oxytocin which is released in the body. And this hormone is also called as a bonding agent. Don't you think this is the most effective and an inexpensive way to create a stronger bond in your child? Hug them as often as possible. Kiss them as often as possible, irrespective of your child's age. It is very important for your child to know that how much you love them and how much you care them. And there is no other better way to express your love to your child other than a hug or a kiss. So when you hug your child, there is a hormone that is released in the body which is called oxytocin. It is also a bonding agent. So this will help to create a stronger connection and a stronger bond between you and your child. It comes to us free of cost, and it is very rightly said as, Jadoo ki jhappi. Now do you know why it is called Jadoo ki jhappi? It actually creates that jadoo in our bodies. Okay, so that's a pro tip from me. Okay, here I come to the end of the session. Any questions? I am more than happy to answer it for you. If there are any questions, please post them in the comment box. Any questions? No questions? I'm going to wait for a few more minutes to take in your questions. If you have, please feel free to post them. You can also stay connected with me on my group, which is Blissful Parenting. Okay, Maushmi has a question. She says how to make them do daily tasks in such lockdown period like studies, etc., without shouting and yelling. Rashmi, it is always important that you schedule a routine for your child. They need to have a time for them to play. They need to have time for their studies. They need to have a scheduled time to watch TV. So, and even to play. Okay, so while you are putting a schedule onto your child's routine, your child will automatically discipline himself and herself, and they will exactly know this is how my day is scheduled. This is how I have to work on. Say you always have to create routines with their sleep, bedtime, and even with their wake up time. Okay, make sure that they wake up at the same time and go to bed at the same time. These routines will definitely provide a structure into your child's day. And say suppose if your child is watching TV, when it is time for them to do their homework, you can always be very firm but kind in telling them not to do it, or you can provide a consequence. When you're providing a consequence, be very gentle about it. Say if your child has crossed his watching time, you can reduce the watching time for the next day. If his watching time is for half an hour, and if your child has taken watching time to good about 45 minutes to 1 hour, next day your child will not get 45 minutes or half an hour. He only gets 15 minutes to watch TV. So always have consequences, but in a gentle way. Make sure that you do not shout and yell at them, because it is going to make your kids more rebellious about certain things. As I told you, it puts off their prefrontal cortex area, so they won't be able to think and logically reason it out. So you have to come up with a schedule, you have to design a routine for them. And you also, not just kids, but I would suggest even parents, follow a prescribed routine. Okay, ask your kids to wake up along yourself, do some meditation, do some exercise, take them out on a walk. While you are role modeling your child, it is very easy for you to get your child to do things. Role modeling is really important. So prepare a schedule and stick to the schedule. Make sure none of it goes here and there, and you will be able to discipline your kids during the lockdown. Poonam is asking a question. My kids starts shouting nowadays, maybe because of no cycling and going out. Please suggest what do you do for her to feel more engaged. Poonam, I'm not sure which city you're typing in from. Just check how the atmosphere around your home is. And if you're able to take your child, you can definitely accompany your child, take them out on a cycling and bring them back safely in. You will be there to monitor your child. Never send your child alone in these circumstances in a pandemic. Make sure that you accompany your child so that you are there with them, and she doesn't come across any other individual, or she doesn't touch something which is unwanted and unused. So make sure that you are there, take them out on cycling. If there are no options for you to go out, then I would highly suggest some physical activities back home. Okay, like skipping. I don't know, I'm not sure about your child's age. If you probably provide your child's age, it will be more helpful. You can help your child with more of physical activities like skipping or some physical exercises, or sitting with them and helping them engage in lot of various other activities, getting them involved in your household chores. All this is definitely age appropriate, but if you feel your child is of the age to perform all these activities, then you can do that. Poonam says she is 4 years old. You can engage her with lot of physical activities at home, Poonam. Since the situation is really bad, I do understand how difficult it is for kids to manage their emotions and feelings in the four walls that they have been surrounded with. But you have to come up with various activities where you involve her with small household chores. Probably you have finished washing your dishes, you can ask your girl to put back the dishes in the right places, or probably help you out with laying table for the dinner. So you can engage them in various such activities and help them out and ease their apprehensions during this lockdown period. Okay, so it was indeed a pleasure to be here, and I'm more than glad that to all the participants who were a part of this session, heartfelt thanks for being here and patiently listening to my talk. I really wish you have a great and a happy parenting. You have any questions, please you can post me on here. I will be more than happy to answer you. Until we meet next, I'm not sure, but yes, happy parenting. Stay home, stay safe, everybody, and take care. See you all. Bye.